it's been like a real depressing week, Chris. Just doom scrolling Twitter, stuck in my house. Up until yesterday when the news got a little bit better, a little bit brighter. But tough week, man, since I've last talked to you.
Yeah, it has. It's been, you know, another tough week and a tough season, to be honest. But yeah, yesterday we got some great news that Damar is, has been awake and responsive and able to communicate. So that was just a huge relief, I think, for everybody. Even with the understanding that he's got a ways to go in his recovery.
Yes. Yeah, I think the relief is, obviously from the scene and the traumatic scene that everyone there on the field saw and that we all sort of experienced secondary through them live. Just the fact that this young man's alive and that it is showing progress. And the doctors from that press conference sounded, I thought they did a great job in laying it out that there's still a long way to go. He's still in intensive care, but that this is a great sign. And it's, the neurologically intact, I think, made everybody give a big sigh because everybody, I think, ran through the different scenarios in their heads, seeing that of where this could go. And for it to come out early, the first news we get from the hospital directly is, such a positive response so early, I think gave everybody a big sigh of relief. And you saw that in the press conferences and Josh Allen and McDermott and everybody speaking to that really. And that made me feel so much better to do this Twitter spaces today and come on and talk. And, that we were talking about in the Slack channel, Chris, that this game being played like is for the players. This is what they want now that they've gotten that news. And so it feels, like you said, there's still a long way to go, but it feels like some return to normalcy just from the positive news.
Yeah, I think that after the team spoke with Damar Hamlin's father, there was, a general feeling in the locker room like, okay, we're gonna play. That's what Damar would want us to do. But I don't know if I think it was probably really difficult to actually put your heart into it. Like I think that they had practice scheduled for Thursday, uh, before the news broke that from that Damar was making some positive progress. Um, and but then of course when that news comes out, now it's like, all right, there's something. We haven't had anything yet aside from our friend, brother, teammate collapsed in front of us, and for 2 days it's just been a waiting game to see, like, is he going to pull through it all, let alone what's his condition going to be. But to have something to hold on to, I think now you're in a position where you can you can focus on something else while still keeping your thoughts and prayers with Damar.
Yes. Real quick, Chris, I just wanted to check. I just switched headphones. Does this sound okay
Yeah, yeah,
here in
yeah. You
Spaces?
sound great.
All right, cool. Um, I do think, there's so many things around Damar Hamlin and this terrible, tragic event that occurred on field to talk about. But one of them, you bring up his dad approaching the team. And I a little bit have gotten to talk to his dad over the year. Being a Damar stan, he liked a bunch of tweets, followed me and stuff, and we went back and forth and talking early in the year of how excited I was, right? And what I didn't know, though, which comes out in an event like this when you start to learn more about the person, right? I knew a little bit about Damar throughout this process of that draft process and getting to know those players, those late round guys. I always love those guys anyway. But some of these stories I'm hearing for the first time, and really the more getting to know his family for the first time, and it really all makes sense as to the player that he is, the type of guy, why the Bills liked him, that DNA culture fit. You were seeing it over and over again in the stories about him and his family and how they really have made him the man that he is and how close they are to him. And it's just a testament to the type of people, again, we talk about it a lot and it sounds cliche, that this organization has within it and that they bring around. And I do think that matters when you are going through a traumatic event like this, like the people that are surrounding you, the leaders that are around you, and the type of fight you have in you matters to your recovery. And I think that's why we're seeing the positive news that we saw with Damar. It's not just the hats off, a complete great emergency response that we saw from the medical professionals. But like, this kid is going to be a fighter. Like, he's going to fight through this. And I think everybody that knows him is kind of saying that, and we're learning that about him.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's been kind of amazing to see um, every everyone involved from the time that Damar went down up until now. I mean, has there even been a misstep? I mean, it seems like everybody's just doing the right thing, and um, you- from the first responders, the medical staff,
Yeah.
um, the coaches, the players, the NFL at large. Um,
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's been kind of an affirming week in a lot of
We,
ways.
You're so right, dude. Like, we give the NFL a very hard time, and even early in that moment, in the caught up in emotion, I was very critical. But, like, it's easy to sit on my couch and tell people what they should be doing with the news that we're getting. But I think at the end of the day, when we're hearing these reports of the Bills, assistant trainer coming out and doing exactly, you hear professional medical staff praising these guys, and I think we talk about it a lot with the players themselves. I defend Dane Jackson all the time as adequate, right? Like, and what that means to be an adequate person in the NFL is like, you are top 1% of athletes in the world still. And we talk about these guys and we say they stink. Like, it's not like that. And it really is all through these organizations. And this moment was a good reminder that they really do have the best of the best in the world involved in the NFL from top to bottom. And it shows up when it needs to in moments like this. And it's good on them that they had the right equipment in place. Like, they were prepared for events like this, even though it was an unprecedented event. They had everything in place for it, which makes you feel a lot better about the game itself, even though I still have concerns for player safety and stuff like that. Maybe they do take it more seriously than we give them credit for, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I had um, one of my friends kind of make a knock against the NFL this week and their general record on player safety. And it's like, okay, that true. Yeah, of course. Everything with concussions over the years and how long it took that protocol to develop. But honestly, like, we can give them this one. The protocols they had in place, they saved Damar Hamlin's life. I don't think there's really any other way to look at it. And shout out to Denny Kellington. I mean, these guys, they're doing their jobs every week. They don't get a ton of recognition. I mean, how many Bills fans even knew the name Denny Kellington before this week? Um,
I didn't.
yeah, honestly, I didn't either. But he's a hero. I mean, he knew what to do. He stepped up, and I think that we all owe him a thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Sean McDermott spoke to it. These guys, we don't see them, but that is what they are preparing for. They're out there running those things as practice drills, right? They are first responders in scenarios. And granted, I don't think even in that situation, they're probably not training for cardiac arrest situations. It's probably spine. That would be what I think. You go into a situation like that on a football field, you think it's head, spine, something like that. I don't think you run out on the field expecting to see a player in a cardiac arrest situation. So good on them to recognize it, diagnose it. Like they said, I don't understand what goes into diagnosing those things. I've witnessed friends' seizure, and that looks what kind of like what people describe some strokes as. Like, I've seen multiple seizures, and they all look different. So I wouldn't know what to do in the moment, right? You really do have to be a trained professional to know what to apply, how to apply it. So hats off to every single person involved. But this isn't the first, in talking about player safety, Kevin Everett's story, like, that was again, that crucial moments of those types of injuries. We've seen that happen over and over again. While the NFL, hasn't done a great job in their long-term history on concussions, and there's some, you know, argument there that they were probably nefarious and covering up some information there. I do think in terms of on the field safety, recovery from injury, I think it's in the interest of the NFL, whether it's from the kindness of the owners' hearts or it's in the interest of maintaining players so that you have the best teams available, people are putting money into that and trying to make the game safer in that level. And that's why you saw all that equipment, all the EMTs, all the safety staff, all the medical staff. The UC Medical Center had staff on site, and that's the same way at Buffalo. There's UB staff on site ready to go. Every NFL city has a level 1 trauma center there. Like, all those precautions are put in place because there is some caring about player safety, right? And I think that's the discussion needs to not be so binary of like the NFL doesn't care about their players. It needs to be, you know, there's ways to improve how they show they care, right?
Yeah, there definitely are. And you brought up Kevin Everett. I just wanted to say that the Cover One's guys, Don Purdy and Josh Corvier, they did a podcast yesterday where they interviewed George Wilson, former Bills safety, and former Bills tight end Ryan Neufeld, who were there when Kevin Everett got hurt. So that was an interesting perspective. You can check that out on Cover One YouTube up now.
Yeah, I missed that yesterday in my 2-day basically on and off sleeping like all the time for the last 2 days. I was like totally barely coherent. So I do want to go back and catch that because I always love their stories, you know, from that perspective, right? We learned so much about the travel when the blizzard happened, and they had that same experience when Don was there, right? And then being able to talk to people that had a similar experience and not exactly the same way, but like Sean McDermott said, he talked to coaches that have had traumatic experiences with their team. And while you can't share the exact same experience, I think it is good to hear stories and hear experiences that were similar.
That was definitely an interesting,
and that's what I want to get from.
Yeah, that was an interesting point that Sean McDermott made at his press conference. How he had spoken with guys like Marvin Lewis, and he listed 4 or 5 different coaches that I don't know if he reached out to them or if they reached out to him. I can't remember if he specified, but either way, that's just so great to be again reminded of the broader community of the NFL. I mean, these teams, they battle each week, and there's rivalries. There's a lot of cases where teams just genuinely don't like each other. But I think again, like an incident like this is a reminder that it is a community. The coaches, regardless of what colors you wear, they're going to stand up for each other. Same for the players, and that was great to see.
Yeah, I think over the last probably 5 years, we as fans, like the casual fan, has learned a lot about NFL locker rooms, right? Like there was the Colin Kaepernick stuff that was going around in the NFL, and that was going to splinter the NFL locker rooms, right? And then you had obviously all the last few years of divisiveness around the country, and people wrote articles about how that was splitting NFL locker
COVID
rooms, and
protocols,
COVID
yeah.
policies. Mm-hmm. All of these things have built up, and then you have different types of events that come through time and time again. And the NFL seems to just, with all the criticisms we give them and that they've gotten in the past, them in the communities that they're in usually seem to rise to the top, like more times than not. And it shows the best of people in those scenarios. And I think that, hats off to Sean McDermott for one, the way he's handled everything from top to bottom. A lot of people, made fun of culture, process, all that stuff for the last few years, and all the cliches he's talked about, family, love, building those foundations right from the start when he got in. These types of situations, again, you don't prepare for it, but there might not be a better team in a better situation in terms of coach, GM, and all the things they've put around everybody in this building. They've talked about having mental health therapy. They brought in extra staff for this moment. Sean McDermott openly saying like that shows strength to know when you need to talk to somebody. That is a sign of strength. Like for a man to be able to get up there and do that, I think does show strength, and it is hard to say, especially in the world of football. I think it's always been the tough guys thing, And so for him to have that type of strength, but also empathy and compassion, he's the right man for the moment. He's built this 4 or 5 years of, foundation of putting all those things in place. And I am grateful for all of that, because this is a moment that could be really tough for a lot of these young men. And I feel like Sean McDermott has put this team in a good position to absorb terrible adversities, and it grows and it makes them stronger and more of a family. You see it time and time again with this team.
Yeah, and you heard Josh Allen and Mitch Morse talk about it specifically in their press conferences yesterday. I mean, these are two team leaders, and all they couldn't say enough about how Coach McDermott said exactly the right things and gave them the license to feel and show their emotion. You know, it's as Mitch Morse specifically said, there's this sort of culture of being macho, and this team, I think, has been able to kind of transcend that, right? And be able to be vulnerable with each other. And I think it's brought them closer. And it's really a special thing that they've built. I mean, think about, Brandon Beane staying at the hospital for days. I mean, that's just incredible when you think about it. And as far as I'm concerned, I would just at this I mean, I was already convinced of this, but I couldn't be more convinced after this week that I want to see Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane working for the Buffalo Bills until they're ready to retire.
You're never going to face probably something more adverse than they've gone through over the last 12 months. Kim Pagula's health issues over the summer, which I still don't fully know, but that's a very traumatic event in a workplace when, the owner's wife is suffering from a medical condition as well. That was hard on the organization. They went through that, and then the Ariza situation, the Tops massacre. Like, Buffalo has had a really hard year on its own, and your team is embedded into the community, affect those people, as well. They are members of this community as well, and so they've been through a lot. And I would love to have Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane here going forward, because they've proven on the field they can put a formula together for success, right? We know that they could be a top 5 team in the NFL. They know how to put that together. But the types of adversity that this team has already experienced and already weathered, and those two leaders have led them through it with grace, with humility, with strength. Like, you couldn't ask for better. I couldn't think of a combo I would take over them if you could let me pick. They are perfect for this community, for this team. So yeah, I'm here long term. Let's do it. Lock them up.
Yeah, and while we keep our thoughts and prayers with Damar Hamlin, please also remember Kim Pagula, because it's been months and we still don't have clarity on
No updates. Yeah.
and that obviously can't be good. And I feel for her and for Terry and for their whole family. It's so sad. I mean, she is a young person. So
Yeah.
I hope for the best.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a privacy matter, and that everybody associated just respecting the privacy. And I
Of
don't know
course.
the news, but yeah, I think about it a lot, and I hope that they are doing okay. I think that they've also been through a lot, and because they're billionaires and owners, and they don't always get thought of long term. I know there's a lot of outpouring support, and I just hope she's okay. I hope everybody there is okay, because this is, again, fans have experienced a trauma here recently with Damar and all of that, as well. But there was a lot of people that were experiencing a lot of pain, going into this. And so check on people. It's not just, the Pagulas. We hope they're doing well, but everybody, go check on your people. I think it impacted a lot of people in ways that they didn't realize it would. We watched this game for entertainment purposes, but I think that this incident had a lot of perspective impact for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And I just shared a tweet that Garbage Al put in here. Um, it's
The breathing tube is, wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
the breathing tube is out of Damar Hamlin as of this morning, and he has begun talking to Buffalo Bills teammates again. Hamlin had a breathing tube in his body through his throat since Monday night, but no longer needs it and can fully breathe on his own. So that's a little bit of breaking news that obviously is very positive development in this story.
I think that was the next big step, right? They were
Yep.
talking about is removing that. I think the medical professionals that spoke at that press conference were so good to share the good news, be positive, project positivity in that, and that it was authentic, but that also, being in critical condition, no matter why, is your body is sick. Your body's very sick, you know, and coming back from that, it can be a delicate process. And so I think it was good to, you know, give the positive news, but say there's a long battle going. But this is, again, next day, I think a big step, and that was what they were looking for. And so, great. This is awesome. More positive news that he's speaking. You know, I mean, it's just this week just feels like it is. I don't even know what day it is. You know, I knew it was Friday when we were doing the spaces, but
Spaces
I
Day.
can't. Spaces Day, exactly. And to Sean McDermott's point, and they talked about it. I can't wait for him to fully be able to see, now that we know everything's intact, he's been able to communicate, for him to fully see the outpouring of love that he's received. I think is going to be a special moment for his family. So I'm really happy for them. That news is fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Al.
Yeah, for sure. Good job, Al.
Oh man, I'm all tearing
I
up every morning this week, dude. This sucks. I
it's
mean, it's good. This is a good type of tearing up. I'm happy, really, really happy for his friends and family, and all the Bills. They are friends and family too, right?
totally. And I know it's been talked about, but I can't get over the part out of every sports movie where a player gets hurt. He wakes up and the first thing he says is, "Did we win?" I mean, he wrote it on a piece of paper, but it's like, "Did we win?" I mean, it's like someone had said it at some point. This is going to make a great 30 for 30 someday.
I mean, this season already, regardless of the outcome, is. I mean, I have had so many people that don't have any interest in football at all reach out to me this week, just knowing I'm a crazy Bills fan and talking about this story. I think um, the world right now, outside of fans that are just obviously going to root for their fan interest no matter what, I think the world right now going into the playoffs is really pulling for this Buffalo Bills team, probably more so than any team I can think of. Uh, I know there's been other tragedies in other cities where teams sort of rallied around that, but this is specific to the team itself and the way it's been reported on, and the interest that this story has had, and the hope that has come from it, of so many people rallying together to hope for his recovery. Now you're getting signs of a recovery, man. I think everybody's just really pulling for Damar and the Bills at this moment.
Yeah, there were already so many reasons to root for the Bills, even if you don't have a natural rooting interest in this team or this city. I mean, the fact that they had the 4 Super Bowls in the '90s that they lost, and just like, wouldn't it be great to finally have a championship for the Buffalo Bills beyond the AFL championships, of course. Um, and Josh Allen, and the face of the team, is such a likable guy, and you see lots of people rooting for him and even becoming football fans because of him. It's And now, of course, all the things that have happened over the course of this season and this most recent, it's like everything seems like it's building, and it's wild. I think that you had a great T-shirt idea that came out of this the other day. I don't know if you've been doing any mock-ups or anything, but I think you should.
I mean, it really does feel like everybody's pulling for him, everybody I've talked to. And you're right. You hit all the points as to why you could before. And I just hope that, one, DeMar continues on this progress. I hope that we just continue to get this updated progress, on his side. It just looks so good right now. And I do hope that this team, should probably talk about the game. I wasn't on the show this week. Part was sick. Part I didn't know what to say. I wasn't ready to talk about football going forward. I wasn't sure, right? And now I was already ready to talk about it today. And now you get this fantastic positive news coming out that he's actually talking to his Buffalo Bills teammates here. This gets me really excited for football, Chris. I think that in that locker room, we heard about the response that they gave when Mario Hamlin, Damar's dad, came out and talked, just the positive signs that he was writing and grabbing hands and saying that, this was a huge positive sign. We heard the reaction was like total applause. Can you imagine if Damar records a video or is on Zoom here in the next couple of days to this team, like they are going to be so jacked up to rally around their brother. Like this is absolute best case scenario at this point, right? For him, for Damar.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of feel bad for the Patriots and their fans a little bit.
I think, man, I know a lot of them. You know, I talk about it all the time on the show. I'm from New England. A lot of fans, they know. I think even before anything happened, a lot of them just want this season to be over. They don't want to go into the playoffs.
They shouldn't.
A
They
bunch
shouldn't be going into the
fans,
playoffs.
yeah, they don't want to talk about this team anymore. They don't want to watch it. They don't want to see it. And so I think that already leaned into like go ahead and roll them. But now I think it's such a there's so much empathy and all those things surrounding this Bills team now that they don't even care. They're willing to lay down and just take a beating. I think the fan base.
I mean, it's funny. You see New England pop into a wild card spot and you're like, oh, they must be playing better. No, man, they're 2-4 in the last 6 games. Like the only reason they're there is because the Titans and the Jets and the Dolphins have all collapsed. It's like,
I will say, I can't find it. I thought I tweeted it. I'll have to look a little bit harder. I definitely talked about it on one of the shows. I took my L for I said the Jets were frauds and then the Jets beat us. And I was like, I'll take my L for this game, but I actually still think they're frauds. Like I was still talking shit. And kind of same with the Patriots and the Dolphins. And I said it on our show and I talked about it on tweets that at that point halfway when the Dolphins fans were celebrating being first in the AFC and Jets fans were thinking they were going to be a playoff team and New England was even thinking like, oh, we could get hot here. I was like, all these teams are going to be 500 to sub 500 in the hunt. They're all drought era Bills teams at the end of the day. And here we are heading into the end and everybody's doing what the Bills did for years is chasing formulas, hoping other teams win games, hoping this thing works out. It's not a good place to live. You don't want your franchise to be there. It couldn't happen to any worse people than Patriots and Jets and Dolphins fans. So I don't feel bad for them, but it is where they are at right now. And I think that we got a false sense of that recency bias mid-season where there's a couple teams probably performing better than they ought to be and schedules were a little wonky. Something's happened. And then ultimately the teams are who we always thought they were. And those other teams are middling 500 teams and the Bills are the AFC's champions again and the best of the AFC.
in the 4 weeks leading up to the first matchup between the Bills and the Patriots actually had a better overall DVOA. They were number 7.
Yeah.
In those 4 weeks, not for the whole season at that point, but like I like to look at the month leading in because I feel like that tells a lot about where a team is at. Patriots were 7 and the Bills were number 11 because they were in that like mid-year rut.
Yeah, they were in such a slump.
And the Bills still dominated that game, right? Like, you know, it was not a huge score point differential, but they still were in total control. Now the Bills are number 2 over the last 4 weeks, and the Patriots have dropped to number 20. So it's like what I'm saying, I don't know, to the casual observer, I guess, like the Patriots are in a playoff spot now, so they look like okay, they're playing well down the stretch like the Patriots do, but that's not what's happening at all.
No, and the Bills cannot go into this game and just think that their energy and all that stuff's going to win this game. I think that it will give them a huge boost. I think that on paper they should go and just handle business. This shouldn't even be a close game at all. But the Patriots do have something to play for here, right? And I do think in a manipulating way you could rally them around. The whole country is going to be rooting for Buffalo. They don't need this game. We do. We're desperate. Play desperate. And there's some way you can rally around that. NFL players always find ways to rally around whatever it is. New England Patriots has done it for years. Like they would be the 1 seed and they'd be like, the world is against us. And it's like, oh, is everybody against you?
The actual like New England versus everybody was probably more appropriate than Buffalo versus everybody.
Yeah. And so I do think that, they still got to go handle business here. But this is maybe couldn't lay out better for the Bills in terms of they've done a really good job against this team. The Patriots are pretty toothless. I think, this works into a really good tune-up for the playoffs, which I still think this team needs, outside of obviously they got to get back mentally from what they witnessed on the field. I still thought they needed those two games, the game against the Bengals and this game against the Patriots, to continue to. We've talked about their ascension in certain areas, but I thought that there still needed some tweaking. I still wanted to see Trey White getting reps. I still wanted to see that Kyrie and Dane Jackson rotation. Who was going to win out there? Like, there's still some things, in my opinion, that needed to be worked on before we got into the playoffs. And I think the Patriots line up to be a pretty good tune-up game for some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, any NFL team can beat any other NFL team any week. That's always the caveat. The Patriots, those two wins they've had, one of them was against the Cardinals, where the Cardinals were bad with Kyler Murray, and Murray
Yeah.
got hurt at the beginning of that game. He attempted one pass, and then Colt McCoy came in. That was one Patriots win. The other one over the last 6 games was against the Dolphins, who were starting their third quarterback. It's just I don't see from a logical standpoint how the Patriots stand much of a chance this week, and I kind of feel bad because I think they're going to get rolled.
I don't feel bad. I think we need it. One, I think the stadium's energy is going to be. There's been a few times I was at the stadium when the Pagulas bought the team, and like Jim Kelly was out at halftime. I was crying. Like, it was a super emotional day. There's been a few other times where they had either events or something happen where I wished I was at the stadium. This is one of those times. Like, the energy is going to be absolutely electric. And if the Bills go out and just start rolling the Pats like we saw them do late in the season last year, rolling into the playoffs and in the playoffs, I mean, the place might just shatter. It's exactly what I think Western New York needs right now in terms of like a pressure release valve to just have a celebratory night. We all sat down getting ready for the game of the year that our team was in. It was so hyped up to be the biggest head-to-head heavyweight fight, and for what happened to happen, like, was so devastating to this entire region, to all Bills fans, that oh my god, if they come out and just roll the Pats, that's exactly the type of night that I need to have, to come on the post-game show there and celebrate that type of thing.
Yeah, our guy Chris Seth is in here. I put his tweet up on the Jumbotron Buffalo ceilings. He's getting shivers about how the Ralph will be on Sunday.
I love that he calls it the Ralph.
Yeah, right.
I still do. I mean, sue me.
It's it's still, honestly, for me, like I associate Rich Stadium with it more than anything else.
Sure.
But yeah, it's the Ralph, totally.
I don't think I ever went when it was Rich Stadium.
That was when you were still in New England country at that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the Ralph by the time. The first game I went to would have been 2003. So I think it was already the Ralph by 2003.
Yeah. It was Rich Stadium all throughout
the
90s Super Bowl years. And that's like when I was, I grew up in Buffalo. So that was very memory-making times for me. So that was kind of imprinted that it's Rich. Not the Rich, but I'm trying to connect it to the Ralph.
Memory making is a good way to say childhood trauma. But yeah, we don't have it. Nobody's trying to. Do they just want to hear us idiots ramble?
Well, yeah, I guess we haven't.
It's
been
asked.
It has been sort of a somber conversation about Damar, despite all the hope.
This week, man.
But yeah, like, if anybody's out there wants to step up and make a point, ask a question, just request to speak.
For sure. So one thing we were talking about while we're waiting to see if anybody wants to talk, some of the scenarios that have come out. We were talking in the Cover One Slack channel about the potential of the neutral site, right? That the NFL came out and said, that depending how that one seed plays out or how that round plays out, the AFC Championship would be at a neutral site. And now I don't know if any more information has come out. I've been just sitting here on Spaces this morning as to where they're suggesting, but I thought that conversation was interesting in the Slack channel about where would you do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been Indianapolis, I guess, and as soon as they started talking about neutral site, I think I don't know if it was Mike Bunt or one of the other guys, but Someone said Indianapolis immediately, and I think it was definitely Mike who said that he would bet all of his money on it being Indianapolis, which
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it does. It's geographically central. It's weather, it's like the elements are in control there, right? Because they're in the dome. I guess it's not the best field, in terms of the likelihood of players getting injured, but there are still 7 of those fields. It's like nobody like no that point always comes up, right? When we were going to Ford Field, we were talking about it. When we're going to MetLife Stadium, we're talking about it. I don't know. It's I don't know if that's enough to move the needle to make it a less likely possibility.
I'm so sorry for ignoring you. I do this to my wife all the time. I was reading a tweet
It's all good.
that was shared in the Slack channel here. Ian Rappaport, obviously, just elaborating on the news. This is amazing. For the first time, Bills safety Damar Hamlin is addressing the team via FaceTime. The breathing tube is out, and he spent the morning speaking to various teammates on FaceTime. Now he's delivering a message to the entire group, I'm told. And I just got goosebumps all the way down, top to bottom.
We're gonna see that message, and it's oh man,
I'm gonna be crying
I
all
can't
day.
wait.
Oh my god, it's gonna be a crying type of day. I keep thinking in my head is pressure release is coming to Western New York. I think a lot of people were anxious, man. I know I was, and this type of news just feels so fantastic. I'm so happy for everybody that loves that young man. I'm so happy for all of them right now. That's
It's
awesome.
so cool that we're like, we're like this stuff is happening while we're talking, and
there's
yeah.
Greg. Sorry, I'm like sitting here crying. Greg's.
Oh, I'm sure he's coming in to talk about.
Yeah,
I
he's
can't.
coming.
I can't add him as a speaker because you got to do that. I don't have the co-host for this.
Oh, I didn't co-host. You see, I've been out of the game for like a week. Here we go. There's Greg's in.
Woo!
I see you, Christian. We'll get to you in a second, Christian. What's up, Greg?
Oh, just amazing. Absolutely incredible. Obviously to hear the news and honestly to see like the universal response that it's not just Bills fans and Bills Mafia excited, like everyone in the entire football world and outside of football, seeing this news and reacting to it. It tells you how far reaching the impact was and everything that goes along with it. As we're speaking, an official announcement just came out from the Bills. I can read that for everybody here quickly. Per the physicians at UCMC, Damar's breathing tube was removed overnight. He continues to progress remarkably in his recovery. His neurological function remains intact and has been able to talk to his family and care team. So just incredible news. It's awesome. And obviously just echoing the excitement everybody's sharing.
This is crazy. I can't even.
Here, let's get Christian in here. He was Christian, how you doing, man? I know it takes a minute, so take your time here.
I'm doing good, dude. Thanks. First of all, awesome news about Damar Hamlin. That's literally the best possible scenario. And I just wanted to get your guys' take on. I heard somewhere that they might even consider playing the AFC Championship game at a neutral outdoor site. Thoughts on that?
So we were talking about that in Slack channel a little bit. My thoughts on that is, I'm a big fan of. I think football is played in the elements. I don't care about it. I think your team should be able to play in the elements. I'll defend that to the day I die. But I think that would be weird of the NFL to, if they have, there's going to be a lot of domes that are about to become vacant here over the next week. You would have a lot of options to not have to involve the weather in this game in terms of even cancellation. We saw a year ago with lightning striking, canceling a Bills Chiefs game. We've seen some crazy weather hit stadiums that probably wouldn't otherwise get some crazy weather. I wouldn't add that variable when you already have such a weird sort of scenario in progress already. If I could control the variable, I think I would. And I'd put it in a dome, especially when you have some that are going to be convenient locations for both teams.
Yeah, I'd be surprised at it, but I will say there are some where
Tennessee, probably.
Yeah, well, or Carolina or Jacksonville,
sure,
or like they are going to identify a neutral site location, and that neutral site doesn't have to be a dome. I think it's more likely, but there are logical solutions where it might not be.
It's not going to be like MetLife or New England.
Correct. Yeah, they're not going to. Yeah, they're not going to invite, like you said, additional variables. But I don't know that if maybe Sean McDermott lobbies heavily that he would rather the grass in Carolina's Bank of America Stadium than the slit film turf in Indianapolis. Maybe there's something like that where
Right.
I don't know, but my guess is it would be indoors.
Yeah.
Is there a dome with a better turf than the slit film?
Yes, Arizona,
Okay.
where the Super Bowl is, it's grass.
Okay.
Yes.
They have the awesome thing where they literally slide the
Sure.
grass out from under the field, and it goes outside and gets sun, and then they slide it back in. It's
Super awesome, super expensive, unfortunately. But what about Atlanta? Does Atlanta have a decent turf?
Atlanta has good turf, not bad turf.
Maybe that's a possibility. Oh man, I couldn't even talk for a second there, guys. When after that news came out about him FaceTiming with players like that, man, it's just unreal. What a relief that he's able to do that now, and he's got the breathing tube out.
I mean, it sounds really corny and cliche, but you can't script it.
Right.
In a more feel good, better way. I'm just so happy. Again, I've said it so many times. So happy for all those people involved. Just again, the outpouring, the what we learned about Damar and his family, type of young man that he is, I think just even connected people more to this story as it came out immediately. Not that people wouldn't care either way of who this person is, but I think you just see what a good person him and all the people around him are. And so for them to be able to celebrate in this news today after what has been just an absolute terrible 48, whatever, 70 something hours of just grief and trauma, for them to have this. That's real special, man. That is really cool. I'm happy for everybody.
So where do we go from here? What should we talk about as we look forward to?
I'm going to try to make sure I have enough tissues for the day. No, I mean, I didn't. To be honest, I wouldn't have been ready for if we had a regular week show anyway to talk about the Patriots. There's nothing to talk about in terms of that game. We know who they are.
Right.
We know what the match. I think we could talk about, and something I didn't get to talk to Greg at all this week about too, or you, is, I mentioned I still thought this team needed to tune up. I thought they were ascending in things that I was worried about. The run game, I thought, was getting better as the season goes on. I thought that Josh was getting a little bit more comfortable in terms of spreading the ball around a little bit more. I thought that he was really coming into his own in terms of the same way he did last year of just ramping up. You saw it even early in that game, them going to Diggs. I wanted to see more of that over the final 2 games of the season. Want to get a good look at Trey before the playoffs. Again, that Kyer, Dane Jackson rotation, how's that going to play out? I really want to see 2 games of that. So we're down to 1 final game here. It's a great opportunity to tune up against a team that your fans hate. Everybody in the country wants you to win. What are you guys, anyone that's a speaker here, looking to see the most heading in? Like, where is the area of improvement you want to see the most heading into the playoffs so that we can ride that momentum?
So I'll even touch on something that isn't as strategic. I want to see, can they manage the emotions of this moment? We all know there's going to be an enormous lift from not only the emotional and anxiety and fear, relief that has taken place in the last, I guess about 24 hours from now, with, his cognitive ability, him answering back, him asking questions, the press conference from the medical staff yesterday, his father, Mario Hamlin, speaking to the team, him being able to speak to the team now, the breathing tube coming out. Those are all awesome moments that are going to give a huge relief. What the challenge can be is that can be a huge spike in adrenaline and then also a really big drop. And that I think they need to make sure it's not all one big explosion of emotion and then exhaustion, and that they need to figure out not only how to sustainably manage a huge wave of emotion in this game, can you manage it for 5 games now? Can you manage it to be, this game, wildcard weekend, division round, AFC Championship, Super Bowl, if this is going to be, and I don't think this is a stretch, if this is going to be the center of their, motivation and drive and inspiration, that's awesome. And I think it's worthwhile, and I think it's capable of doing that. You have to harness that sustainably, and you have to figure out, how do we let this not just be a big flash in the pan of explosion of emotion and then cresting and falling. And I think it's great that they get a regular season game against an opponent that they're capable of beating, to figure that out and to find the ways to do that. Because I think it can be an awesome blessing, and it can also be a little dangerous sometimes when there's something so impactful. And they talk about it in teams historically, about when they play in their first Super Bowl, that they get that huge explosion at first, and then there's kind of a crash. And I think this is that kind of moment where they need to make sure they can harness it and make it the powerful motivator that it can be.
Yeah, and you mentioned tune-up games, Aaron. One thing that's nice about this matchup is the Patriots have a top 5 defense. This isn't the Chicago Bears. When we saw the Bills offense play a full game last, they were inconsistent, to be honest, against a pretty bad defense. And this is a good opportunity for them to show that, to, like you said, tune up, to get more consistent, to get some of those mistakes worked out, maybe the forced throws, that sort of thing. The Patriots present a good opportunity for that, and on the other side of the ball too, with their offense, with the Patriots offense being in the bottom 10 of the league consistently this year, the Bills defense, which is going to have to work through some personnel issues. Of course, with Damar Hamlin not being able to play, you've got to fill his spot on the field. This is a good opportunity for them to face an offense that isn't a huge threat, but of course, they're still an NFL offense, so they can get their own kind of tune-up on that side.
For sure. I want to go back to what Greg was talking about, because I agree, Greg, with what you're saying in terms of the spiking. That's always been something that I feel like with Josh, you have to be careful with, no matter what the scenario is, because he gets so he gets so worked up. But I do think if there's a team in the NFL that I had to put money on can respond to this in the right way, because of all the things we talked about earlier in terms of the, building that foundation. I think they were probably the one team that could embrace an adversity like this, probably better than any team could, built for this type of, rallying around each other, and the word love and empathy and all those things coming up. So I do think that they're probably in the best position to do it the right way and to have their heads on the right way. I think, at least the conversations will be prepared for that. I think they will have those honest conversations of like, remember, we want to play with that emotion, but let's not let that get to us, and I think that stuff matters. I don't know if it'll work out. You're right. That is a variable we can't really know until we see it. And so hopefully it works out the way that they've prepared for.
I feel good about the coaches, certainly.
I was just going to say, hey, have we ever felt more confident in the leadership capable of delivering that message than we do right now? I've never felt better about being a Sean McDermott apologist than I do over the past 4 days. I've never felt stronger about how much I've advocated for that man.
Yeah, I've sounded like a homer for years, and praising the process, praising all these things, and trying to explain what they are and why they matter. And I feel so vindicated that he is the right guy to lead a group of young men through adversity. I didn't expect it to be this type, but man, the things that he put in place early on and has been consistent to make a part of the culture of this organization really has paid dividends over the last week, really over the last year. We're like, obviously the focus right now is on Damar in this situation, but this team has been through so much, and it's kudos to the leadership and a lot of the people that we don't even know their names and don't even get to talk about their names in that building, that are just part of this culture and allow this team to pack up and travel to Detroit out of nowhere and play a professional game against a good team, right? Like, this is hard to do, and it would crumble a lot of teams. And the Bills have had 4 or 5 of these events here throughout the season and are still trucking. So to Greg's point, in terms of the emotional, like at some point that could just become too much, but it would be an all-time 30 for 30 rallying story if it goes the other way.
I brought him up earlier, but I wanted to ask you guys, I mean, do you think that most GMs would have stayed at the hospital for days the way that Brandon Beane did?
It's a very human moment. I try to be careful in that. One, I do think Sean McDermott was overly humble in his comments about anyone would do this. I just did what anyone else would do. I don't think that's the case. I will say I also don't want to go all the way the other direction and try to tell myself that no one else would have done the things that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane did. I do think some people probably would have left and checked in. I think there's plenty of other GMs who are part of a culture who would feel, whatever the term I want to say,
empathetic.
Yeah, called to stay in that moment. And I know I heard comments about, even yesterday morning he was like in the same clothes as Monday, which somebody could have probably brought him a change of clothes, but I do think it's awesome. So I don't want to take away from that, but I do think that when you get to people with the skill set and that GM position often has a lot of the interpersonal communication and leadership skills, maybe slightly different than the head coach. I do think that some other ones like that would also do that, but I think it's awesome that we have ones that do, so maybe, they're in a select few, but I think it's awesome that we found that the leadership and culture from Sean McDermott and the, dedication and the fact that he and I know Nate Bresky, the head trainer, I think was there the entire time with Brandon Beane, there in the hospital with Damar and his family. I also think that in moments like this, the roster, I think, is always in a position where, they're bought in, they're here, they understand. But there's also moments where, they're all human and they question, like, all right, hey, you guys are always kind of preaching this, brotherhood and family and love and all these different things. And like, oh, yeah, is that really how you feel all the time? Seeing it in action in the moments when it really mattered and really counted, that goes so far in just helping galvanize that message and the message they deliver and helping back it up with their actions. I'm so excited to see what that's going to allow them to accomplish going forward.
I do think being able to practice what you preach solidifies the message. I think the guys in the locker room probably are new, the people. Brandon, we hear it time and time again. It's so cliche, right? John Brown comes back. When he left, it wasn't fantastic. Beasley, same thing. They come back. Shaq Lawson, like all these people come back and talk about how it's different. Talk about this family relationship. Talk about those things that matter. It's become so almost like a tired cliche about this team. So for it to show up for everybody to see when it matters the most, I think, to your point, other players are going to see that. I think there are teams in this league, to Chris's question, that maybe the teams, put out the right messaging and people care, but I don't know that all the teams care about all the people in the same way that this Bills team does. And maybe I'm just a homer drinking the Kool-Aid. I think there are a bunch of teams full of good men and full of good leaders, but I think that the Bills, how connected and how in lockstep they are, I think it's still rare, even in the NFL.
I think, can't we look at, our experience following even the Bills over, I mean, I'm not going to say that they didn't have good team culture throughout the 90s teams and even, some of the teams in the drought era, but I don't know if I've ever felt that the team was quite this locked in, and this in step. I don't know. Am I off base on that at all? You heard stories in the 90s about the bickering Bills. I don't buy that. I still think that they cared about each other a great deal. But this team, I think, to your point, Aaron, I think that they do have a special kind of relationship.
I do think it's okay to describe it as special. I do think that it is different. I don't think that I feel confident that it's not the same in every locker room, and that there's, we saw almost 20 years of that prior to this, where there were competing priorities and selfish motivations and a lack of cohesion and the, esprit de
Miami
corps
might
that
fire
goes there.
McDaniel, we're hearing, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's definitely not the same
seriously,
everywhere.
seriously. Yeah. There's guys get fired for the wrong reasons all the time because of a lack of that singular focus. And so regardless of whether they're the only ones or if it's the best or if anybody else is even close, like, I don't know. I have no idea about those things. I know it's special, and I know they are as unified as any team in the NFL. I'm comfortable saying that.
All right, so if Miami fires Mike McDaniel, I don't know that this could even happen because he's probably going to be in demand for a bigger job. But would you want the Bills to bring him in at some capacity below offensive coordinator?
Well, of course. He's brilliant. He would be unemployed for about 15 minutes.
Right.
He would be.
think-
I don't know how well that Shanahan system works with Josh Allen or not. I would be willing to take a look at it because he is a brilliant offensive mind. But I do think that system works better with like your Tom Brady's than your Josh Allen's. But Josh Allen's making Dorsey look good, so who knows what he could do.
He should, honestly, the Patriots should sell out to try to get Mike McDaniel, like as an OC. Like, I don't think Belichick would, but he would probably fit their, he'd probably.
Yeah, the biggest compliment I can give him is I hope he goes to the NFC.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't think he's an amazing head coach. I do think he might be one of those guys who, is quirky enough that it might not be a fit everywhere. I think he can be a head coach, and I do think he's a brilliant offensive mind and would be a top offensive coordinator if given the opportunity.
I also think that he is probably just going to keep his job. I think it's just rumor that they're going to be able to swing Miami. I think that's only dependent on Miami being able to swing, definitely getting Sean Payton and like probably Tom Brady, right? And they can't know that right now, or they'd also get in trouble again for tampering, right?
Yeah, apparently the owner is pretty comfortable with that kind of thing.
He doesn't care. Yeah.
That was the one thing I gave our friend, Tom and some of the other guys that we have on from the Dolphins. They're like, "Oh, that's crazy. There's no way that they're going to fire him." I'm like, "Yeah, good. The good thing is you have a really stable owner who doesn't have a history of, impetuous, impatient decisions to fire coaches coming off a 10-6 season. So you're probably fine."
Now that you use the word impetuous, we should probably just end on that. I'm not going to sound any smarter than that. No, I do have to get going here. I've just drained my hot tub. I got some water issues in my hot tub I got to fix. My mom's still here.
Let me know. I'll come over and jump in.
Well, yeah, we'll have some victory soaks hopefully coming our way here over the next month. But I'm glad that we can talk about football again and get excited for this team to play a game. I do think we need to see them just totally rock the Patriots. I think that'd be a huge relief for Bills fans everywhere and really football fans of America who were just waiting to hear the news that we had heard today, about Damar, that he's recovering just on exactly as he should be, breathing on his own, talking to teammates. Like, it couldn't be any better news coming into the day. I thought we'd get some updates like we saw early, but I didn't think we'd get to this point already where he's communicating with the team, showing all signs that he's awake and aware. That is absolutely fantastic. So not much else. We could just end on that. You guys have anything else to add to that?
Go Bills. This is America's team now.
That's it. Chris,
Yeah.
man,
I was just gonna say that go Bills. That's about it at this point. Like, yeah. I'm excited to see Damar's message to the team. I'm sure that we're gonna see that, and I'm just really excited to see this team back on the football field. I think it's gonna be really cathartic in a lot of ways.
I hope so, man. Well, all right, guys, enjoy the rest of your Friday here. Hopefully we just see great news. Again, hopefully I'm probably going to be in tears all afternoon with the content that's going to be dropping from the Bills here today. But to tell people, reach out to the people you love, man. I think that's the one thing this whole week has shown me is, it's all fragile. So make sure you check in on your loved ones and tell them you love them. And I can't wait to enjoy the game with you guys here.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. Go Bills, and we'll talk to you again soon.